Good morning, Metal Internet. Welcome to a new episode of the Metal Meltdown. And today, we're not looking at one album, we're looking at two new albums. One from Devourment and one from Pathology. First, let's address the elephant in the room. Why are we talking about two records today, Robert? That's weird. That's different. Why would you do that? Well, the answer is actually quite fucking simple. Both of these records are extremely fucking similar, and both of them are high-profile releases in the world of death metal, and both of them I've received numerous requests for. And it feels weird to put such a high-profile, high-requested record in the Albums I Missed video. It also feels weird to address one and not the other, considering how, frankly, blatantly similar they are. No disrespect to either of the bands, but you know, we're not exactly dealing with the most progressive liberal subgenre in the fucking world here. We're talking about brutal death metal. Bands do inherently somewhat bleed together. So I said, fuck it, do both. Let's stack them together. Let's see how two of the biggest names in this genre succeed in 2019, and who knows, maybe one's better than the other. Maybe if you have to pick between one record or the other, maybe I'll let you know which one I think you should pick. I don't know. Let's give this a shot. This is Devourment versus Pathology. And let's talk a little bit about Devourment first. This record, Obscene Majesty, is actually their first record in quite a while. And let's start off with Devourment and their latest record, Obscene Majesty, which is also their first record in almost 6 years. I probably don't know enough about the genre to fully comment on this, but based on the limited experience I do have with brutal death metal, I think I would safely say that Devourment are the forerunners of this genre, or at the very least kind of the poster boy for it. I mean, for a long time when I thought of brutal death metal, Devourment was who I thought of. When I was introduced to brutal death metal, it was through Devourment on their record Conceived in Sewage, released in 2013. A record that I personally really enjoyed. It had more influence from old school death metal as well as some other modern styles of extreme metal, and I think it made for a surprisingly eclectic but still super brutal and demanding listen. And I was excited to hear more from Devourment, particularly when at that time extreme metal was beginning to change quite a lot thanks to seminal records from Behemoth and Cattle Decapitation. And then not a lot happened. I mean, I know they've done some touring since then. As recently as this summer, they did a tour with Nails and Misery Index, but no new music, not a lot of activity, all things considered. They just kind of disappeared. I can't really find any exact reason why. I'm just going to chalk it up to their personal lives got in the way, and we're going to leave it at that. And this record, straight up, right off the bat, is everything I expected from Devourment. It is incredibly heavy, incredibly muddy, incredibly dark, incredibly grotesque, and evil. All the things we associate not just with brutal death metal, but the broader spectrum of extreme metal as a whole. Really love the fucking sound of the guitars on this. They have this delicious, murky, almost sludgy crunch to them that just makes it feel all the more fucking powerful and invigorating. It's objectively so fucking nasty, and it satisfies me right off the goddamn bat. There isn't a lot of variety or progressive songwriting on here, to say the least. Duh, brutal death metal. But there are a lot of little tricks that Devourment has to keep the album fresh throughout its duration. A lot of cool grooves, a lot of cool riffs, a lot of cool intros and outros. They're particularly embracing a lot of influence from both old school and modern Cannibal Corpse, which I think is a really great fucking touch, and I think they do a lot with it, with the naturally more brutal and bloody edge that they have. Would this change your mind if you despised brutal death metal? No, but that being said, I'm not exactly the biggest fan either, as already stated, and I still managed to have a pretty decent amount of fun here. So yeah, I would still generally recommend this, particularly if you are a longtime Devourment fan. I'm not going to give this an official score right now because I'd like to move on now to Reborn to Kill from Pathology. Pathology, by comparison to Devourment, is a lot more consistent in their output. In fact, there was a period for about 6 or 7 years where they were putting out a new record almost every year. And even though they're not quite that consistent anymore, it's still been just under 2 years since their last studio record. That's bloody impressive, to say the least, and it gave Pathology the chance to kind of become the new modern torchbearers for the genre in Devourment's absence. Full disclosure, of the two bands, I've always enjoyed Devourment more, but there is still a lot to get out of Pathology. For one, they are a much more technically proficient band. The musicianship across all of their records is incredibly fucking tight, and that is also on full display immediately in Reborn to Kill, arguably their tightest yet. The sound mix, I would say, is also a lot cleaner. The snares have a really nice, sharp sound to them. Guitars have a classic death metal feel to them. Vocals are a lot more prominent in the mix. This more modern sound puts them firmly in line with a lot of other brutal death metal, as well as putting them in line with little bits and pieces of tech death, again, just as far as the sound mix goes. To put it very simply, I would not be shocked at all if these guys announced a tour with Aborted or Decrepit Birth or Arcspire, just purely based on that clean, modern sound and not so much the technicality. Reborn to Kill also benefits from having a little bit more musical variety, you know, some little melodic interludes, some churning, stomping grooves that kind of feel like a little bit of deathcore got injected in there. More varying speeds and structures and guitar solos that do a lot to liven up the record when it just about feels like they're starting to repeat themselves. And on top of that, this is also the shorter record of the two, wrapping up at about 33 minutes, which also inherently makes it a tighter package there as well. Anyone who's enjoyed other Pathology records, I don't see any reason why you wouldn't personally enjoy this either. But also, much like the Devourment record, I think it's safe to say if you just fucking despise this genre, it would not change your mind. So I guess that brings us to a final score. I think I would give the Devourment record, I think I'd give that a 3.5 out of 5, whereas I would give the Pathology record a 3 out of 5. I personally prefer the more grotesque, old-school flourishes of Devourment sound. I think that they're more effective. I think that they're just more powerful and brooding and violent. And those are things that really fucking matter in death metal, regardless of what subgenre of death metal it is. Reborn to Kill definitely still has its pluses. It is a shorter record, and it is overall a more diverse record, but I was still more invested in Devourment because I still felt that they were maybe just a little bit more unique and a little bit more powerful. I would not and could not argue with any fan that loved both of them equally, but if I had to choose between one to buy in a store, I would probably pick Devourment over Pathology, and that's also where the edge kind of comes in. That's just, in some cases, a stronger record and more exciting record to dig into. But hey, if you love brutal death metal and slam or whatever the fuck you want to call it, there's no reason why you wouldn't enjoy this record, and I've got no reason not to recommend it to you. And no, do not lecture me about the sub-genres. I don't want to fucking hear it before someone gets worked up and goes, Pathology isn't technically blah, blah, blah. Shut the fuck up. Get it out of here. This sub-genre shit is a fucking plague on the earth. Get out of here. Just enjoy the record and shut up. So there you have it. I don't really have much else to say about either record, which is also partially why I decided to sandwich the two of them together. They're pretty easy records to understand and digest, but they're also still really, really fun. At the end of the day, though, if you got to make a decision financially speaking, I would pick Devourment. I give that a 3.5 out of 5. Pathology's Reborn to Kill, I give a 3 out of 5. I guess since this is technically a versus thing, Devourment win this round. But who knows? Pathology still stand a chance, because if Devourment keeps up at this rate, we won't see another record for 6 years, which gives Pathology plenty of time to craft something super fucking mind-blowing, which I have no doubt that they are fully capable of. And that is it for the Metal Meltdown. I'm not an expert, nor do I claim to be, so what do you think? Do you like these records? Do you not like these records? Which one do you think is better? Which one do you think is worse? And what do you want to hear from me next? And thank you for watching. Make sure you press subscribe so you get updates on the Metal Meltdown fucking immediately. And you have yourself a fantastic fucking day.